Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging hour discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Mike D'Ambrosio, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate, and much, much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host, Mike D'Ambrosio.
Welcome in. Good afternoon. This is Mike D'Ambrosio with Real Estate Radio Live. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. We're always talking anything and everything real estate, as we always do on Real Estate Radio Live. We've got a great show in store for you today. Kristin Niedermeyer, a financial advisor in the Silicon Valley, is on the show today. Kristin, how you doing?
I am fantastic. How are you doing, Mike?
I'm doing good. Thank you for coming on. And we got a whole lot of stuff to talk about today. We're going to be talking about, obviously, you know, we talk on the show about buying and selling real estate as the main topic of ours, but we're going to take a look at it from the financial advising side of it, and cash flow perspectives. Should you stay? Should you sell? Are you afraid to sell because of the capital gains and all that type of stuff we're going to get into? So we have a lot of stuff to get to today. And if you have any questions, I'll give the number in just a minute. But just a reminder for those of you guys just tuning in, always a couple different ways you can listen to our show. That is live on the radio at KDOW 1220 AM. Or you can always go online to reradiolive.com. Or you can download our apps, the KDOW app, the iHeartRadio app, or the RE Radio Live app. And we podcast all of our shows, so after the show, within a matter of hours, you can download the podcast on iTunes. And we come to you 5 days a week if you want to listen live or tell your friends Monday through Friday from 3 to 4 p.m. And I'm on the Monday show, and Joe's got the rest of the week. And as you know, we are a live show, and we love to get your calls and your questions on the air, and I'm sure Kristen would love to take some questions. And we've been getting text messages and emails too, so all sorts of ways you can get a hold of us. But if you want to call in, don't be bashful. That's 1-800-516-1220, 1-800-516-1220, or you can text in to the text line. That's 408-630-0101, 408-630-0101. All right, Kristen, so excuse me. So we have a lot to get to. And
yes, we do.
So before we do that, why don't you give us a little bit of your background and, you know, how long you've been in the business, how you got into financial advising, and all that good stuff.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, first of all, for having me on the show today. It's always fun to see you at work and see the different topics that you bring forth for your audience here. So I have had my business I'm in my 9th year of my practice. I've always kind of been focusing on about 60% of my clients own businesses. The other 40% are, you know, here in the Valley, of course, there's a lot of tech, but there's also different professionals, attorneys, CPAs, things like that. And one of the things I found as I was kind of looking at the career path that I wanted to take is I've always been fascinated by the challenges that different entrepreneurs have. You know, people work all the time. They do everything they can to build their incomes to be able to afford to live here. Yeah. But yet at the same time, they're so focused on their work that they're not really thinking about how does this income that I'm bringing in really support my family. Right. And some of the other things that I care about. And I was working in a position that I was working with predominantly these successful business owners, and yet they didn't have a plan. And I was like, you know, I want to do something about that. And I started to explore different careers, and, you know, nine years ago, and here I am today, and this is what I've been doing. So
we've been I've been in real estate 9 years too, so we have that same career path there. And disclaimer, my wife and I use Kristen as our financial advisor. And Kristen's a veteran of the show. She's been on the show with Joe before and been around. So again, so it's really good to have you on.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Kristen, my word, or the word to the audience, that she's awesome at what she does. So, okay, so let's talk first on the home purchasing side of things. Great. And you know, we talk cash flow, and there's all sorts of things that go into that part of it, and we can talk a little bit about lending too. But on the financial advising side, take us through that process that you go through with your clients when looking at it from the financial advising side of things.
Okay, great. Well, you know, for those of you who've already purchased homes, have been through this, some of this will be familiar, but, you know, the conversation around buying your first home Or maybe you have your first home and you want to get into a bigger home because your family's growing or your preferences are growing or your cars are growing, whatever it is that's happening in your life. This is really a hot topic, and it's something that I would say actually brings a lot of suffering for many of my clients.
Yeah.
Because it's on their mind, and yet this whole thing of being busy seems to get in their way of really analyzing when you make a big decision like this. And a home purchase is a big decision.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's true anywhere in the country.
Most people's lifetime.
But right? Here in the Bay, it's even, as a percentage, potentially even bigger.
Absolutely.
So you can't, unless you're, one of the fortunate people who were given money for down payments from your family, which is many people.
Yeah.
But if you're not one of those people, and if you're not one of those people that necessarily has tons of stock that's built up that you have not spent, right? Then you really, and even if you have that, you still have to be extremely proactive about thinking about how this purchase, one, how to even make the purchase in the first place, and then two, how is this purchase going to impact some of the other things that you care about in your life, right? Because no decision happens in a vacuum. A family might want to have a home, but they also want to raise children, send them to good schools, take vacations. Oh, and by the way, they probably should save.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. You need to do that.
Yeah.
Well, and some of the other things you're mentioning, are we talking about not only the things you just mentioned, but like life insurance and maybe disability if they're. So is that kind of what you mean by analyzing really everything? Like if I can afford this house, and then also can I afford some of the other things that I need to do to sustain, right?
Well, when we look at the purchase of a home, right? So let's start with the cash flow first, right? So as a practical matter, you have to pay for the house, right? You have to have a down payment. Okay, it sounds like an obvious thing, right? Yet I can't.
This is what we teach on Real Estate Radio Live. You got to afford the mortgage payment first,
well,
of course.
And I say that in jest, but people, but how much is that? How much do you need to be saving?
Yeah.
So someone might say, oh, I'm already maxing out my 401k, or oh, I'm already doing this. Well, first of all, is that savings enough, right? And if you're going to add a mortgage to it, are you used to the financial outflow that savings plus a mortgage plus insuring that property is really going to be for your family? So if you've not purchased a home, some people, I would say, save more than 20%. And in your specific situation would depend on, what's actually going on. I'd have to look at it.
Yeah.
But, get used to spending 15% more, save it ahead of time. If you can, front load your savings, because the second that you purchase that home, there could be a new roof, there could be a new bathroom, there could be all of that stuff.
That's something that a lot of people they forget, that there is going to be additional costs as you get into the house. No matter if it's a perfect house or not, there could be those things that come up. Another thing that falls by the wayside is even utility costs, depending on the size of the house and that type of thing. You have to factor in all of this stuff.
Right.
And one of the things that we talk about too, and like when Laura's on the show, we talk a lot about just go get advice. Go talk to a financial advisor. There's so many people out there that have no idea what they might qualify for. They think, I can't afford it, or it's not even worth it to talk to a mortgage professional or financial advisor. Go get some advice. It's not that hard, and it's not going to kill you. It's only going to help you in the long run, right?
Right. And how I do it, and there's many good advisors out there. We're all different in our focuses. I think I would say one thing that distinguishes me is really the cash flow conversation.
Yeah.
Because we've got attorneys, we've got CPAs, we've got an investment advisor, we've got insurance brokers. But is there anyone really looking out for your cash flow? So when my clients come to me and they say, okay, can I afford this house? I really want to get this place. I actually take in, what is the mortgage going to cost? What are our savings practices? Are you properly insured? What is the actual money coming in, all the expenses going out, what's left over, what's our budget, and see are you over or are you under. So I actually am looking at that detail, because the last thing you want to do is, it's a wonderful thing if you can purchase a home, live in it, build your family in it, make memories in it. But if you can't afford it and you're betraying things that you didn't know about, it can create a lot of suffering.
Yeah.
So the more you can pay attention, the better. The other thing is, if you're looking to bump up your savings practices, there's a lot of great ways to do it. Sometimes you grow into it. The second that you get a new bonus, instead of letting it go into your checking account, immediately take it out and put it into a separate account that allows you to begin to capture those growths. If you get an income increase or stock vests,
right.
Don't sell it and then just put it into your checking account, which will, for most cases, just get spent,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
Keep in a separate account because you need to have money outside of a retirement wrapper for that down payment.
Yeah.
So being very purposeful about it and paying attention to it is really essential.
So you're talking more on the saving for a down payment side.
Yeah, that's the saving for the down payment.
Yeah.
And then also making sure that you have the emergency funds once you purchase the home.
Reserves,
reserves, because if you lose your job, which, we're in tech, you might be able to get a new one
yeah.
pretty quickly, but there might be a time, a couple months where, you might be in between jobs, or maybe you just hate your job and you'd like to have the option to be able to find something better. So
that's a good point, because a lot of, even with mortgage, with the mortgage side of things, there's a lot of loan programs out there that don't require reserves. Until you get into the jumbo and higher loan amounts, they don't really require, which is kind of surprising
right.
for, what we've gone through in 2008, 2009.
Right.
But it's just the way that lending is. So I think that's really good that you mentioned that, because a lot of people might not think about that, Well,
and that's where the other side that I was talking about earlier, or you had mentioned about the insurance side, is that I find that many people, as they're going out in the world, they're massively underinsured.
Yeah.
They're making great incomes. They think, oh, my company provides all these benefits. Well, I was actually reviewing some insurance this morning of a couple, and they make great money.
Yeah.
But if he gets sick or hurt, he's going to have a 50% drop in his income.
Yep.
If he gets sick or hurt. And that's with a pretty good disability policy from his company. So if you get sick or hurt, which is 1 in 4 20-year-olds that are in the marketplace today are likely to have a long-term disability. 1 in 4, 25% guys.
It's really that high. Wow.
It's crazy high. Now, some could be really long and some could be really short, but it still is a risk, right? Mm-hmm. So if there's a 1 in 4 chance of that happening to you, and you just bought this crazy home and you're underinsured and you don't have the reserves, chances are you should do something about that, right? Because you made a huge financial commitment that, frankly, you don't want to have to lose.
Right.
And it happens to people, right?
Personally, we've talked about the disability insurance part. There's a lot of people that listen to KDOW that are self-employed or business owners, or, might not have disability insurance as a part of their compensation package. Mm-hmm. And it's a really important thing to look at. Real estate agents, it's huge. Right. There's a lot. If you're not doing deals, you're not making money,
Right.
So I think it's an important thing to bring up when that really ties well with having a mortgage payment, buying a house, and you need to plan for the future on that. So anyways, good stuff, Kristen. We got to take a quick break. Kristin Niedermeyer, a financial advisor in the Silicon Valley, is on the air today. Love to hear from you guys. If you have any questions, 1-800-516-1220, 1-800-516-1220. I'm Mike D'Ambrosio. This is Real Estate Radio Live. Stick around. We'll be right back.
For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Again, your host for today's edition of Real Estate Radio Live, Mike D'Ambrosio.
Welcome back in. This is Mike D'Ambrosio on Real Estate Radio Live, KDOW 1220 AM. The Wall Street Business Network, KDOW. We are talking live in studio today with Kristin Niedermeyer, financial advisor. Love to hear from you guys. If you have any questions, give us a buzz. 1-800-516-1220. That's 1-800-516-1220. Or you can text in to 408-630-0101. And this segment's brought to you by Giorgio's Italian Food and Pizzeria and Frankie, Johnny, and Luigi's too. The best Italian food around with 4 convenient locations throughout the Bay Area to serve you. You can go to Giorgio's and FGLItalian.com for more information on their famous happy hour specials. And I want to mention that tomorrow is Frankie, Johnny, and Luigi's 60-year anniversary, and they are rolling back the prices from 4 p.m. on. So if you go to Frankie and Johnny's in Mountain View, that's in Mountain View tomorrow, you can get a bowl of pasta for like $1 or something. So they're rolling back the prices from 60 years ago. So kind of a cool thing, and they've been around for a long time. So we love our sponsors on Real Estate Radio Live, and we appreciate them. All right, getting back into, we're looking at buying and selling real estate more from the financial advising perspective, and we talked a lot about the home purchase on the previous segment. Any other things that we need to kind of wrap up on the, outside of just straight up purchasing a house with the financial, down payment and going through the mortgage process? What else are we looking at to kind of wrap that part up?
So one of the other things that I encourage my clients to really think about is, it's funny, we maybe we go to school, we get our first job, we start to become more professional, we build our lives financially, and we grow up in our incomes. We don't always grow up in our protection of our incomes. And one of the things I really encourage my clients to do is look, if you're going to buy $1 million home, and even if you don't have one, you've really got to grow up everywhere else. And what I mean by that is, if you're in a situation and you're dependent on either one income or both incomes in order to support your lifestyle, you really got to look at what are the things that could bring my income to zero. What could cause cash flow to go to zero that would dramatically influence or potentially ruin my life if those happened, right? Yeah. One could be a job loss. We kind of already talked about that. And that's where emergency funds can come into play, and they can be really important.
Absolutely.
And disability is the second one, right? If you get sick or hurt and you can't work and your benefits aren't sufficient, then you probably should look at some other options unless you can self-insure. Most people can't do that, right? And then 3, what happens if you pass away? Right? I've had clients whose spouses have passed away. And to be frank, I lost my dad pretty young. And when he passed away, he actually got cancer. And my mother and my father had just built a house together, beautiful home up in Oregon. And, the architect was my godfather, my sister's godfather. The cabinets were built by our family friends. I mean, it was a very beautiful house, a lot of meaning there. But when my dad got sick, first of all, his income stopped because he was self-employed.
Right. He
had no insurance. He was not insurable when I got in the business. So there was really no income coming in. And frankly, there wasn't a lot of support there. And then for a year and a half, my parents actually had to pay for rent. They had the mortgage of their home, plus they had rent for another place that was closer to the chemo center. And then when he passed away a year and a half later, there was all the medical bills.
Right. Yeah.
There was the fact that my mom wasn't working full time during that time to care for him. And my dad didn't really have any life insurance beyond what he had through my mother's work because, again, he wasn't insurable when I got in the business, and he hadn't, he was self-employed and didn't really think through these things, right? And he didn't think, I'm in my later 50s. I don't need this, right?
Yeah.
But then the impact from a family perspective is, my mom, maybe she could have made the house work, but it financially would have been a complete burden. She had to completely uproot her life beyond just losing her husband of 35 years. You had to sell the house, look for new work. I mean, it was just really dramatic. So you've got to think about those things too. So life insurance is really important, reevaluating, making sure that what you have is enough. And then legal documents, getting your trust done. That's a huge one. You've got to look at, especially if you own property, you have kids, you've got to talk to a professional about whether or not it may make sense to do a trust, because in California, if you die without one, it makes everything hell. For lack of a better word.
Yeah, no.
It is not a fun process. It is.
Absolutely.
You're already dealing with enough emotional stuff. The last thing you need to deal with is having your estate completely public for everyone to see.
Yep.
And then not have a clear plan and have to go to the courts to deal with it.
Yeah, and the state's going to be your partner in this. So
right. So
this is never good.
Yeah, so the point is you got to think about all these things.
Absolutely. Really, really good stuff. Good story. And I love it. I mean, this is all important stuff that a lot of people don't think about when they're buying real estate. So awesome stuff, Kristen. And we'll be right back. If you guys have any questions, 1-800-516-1220. 1-800-516-1220. I'm Mike D'Ambrosio. Kristin Niedermeyer is on. You're listening to Real Estate Radio Live. Stick around. We'll be right back on the other side of the break.
For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Again, your host for today's edition of Real Estate Radio Live, Mike D'Ambrosio.
Well, welcome back in. This is Mike D'Ambrosio on Real Estate Radio Live, KDOW 1220 AM, the Wall Street Business Network. And we are talking in studio today with Kristin Niedermeyer, financial advisor. Happy to have her on the show. She's a wealth of knowledge and kind of taking it a different angle at buying and selling, looking at it from the financial advising perspective. So good stuff from Kristen. And if you have any questions, get them in now or on the next segment, 1-800-516-1220. 1-800-516-1220 or 408-630-0101 is the text line. And this segment is brought to you by Starburst Construction. They've been serving the Silicon Valley for over 40 years. They're dedicated to building award-winning homes that last a lifetime. You can visit them today at starburstconstruction.com. Okay, Kristen, so we spent first half of the show talking about buying and different alternatives and different things to look at with buying. So let's flip over to selling, and this is a really quick segment, so we'll probably get into it on the other side. So where do we start with selling and looking at it from the financial advising spin?
Okay, got it. So, it's interesting. As people so what I'd like to talk about is selling in relation to getting closer to retirement. I think there's a lot of people out there that feel the looming threat or cloud of retirement one day. I don't know what to call it. There's, it's funny when people start to talk, you can see their eyes start to kind of like glaze over. It's pretty scary. And you can tell there's something going on, right? You can tell that there's this like much larger conversation and they don't know where to start, and so they just keep putting it off, which if there's any advice I can give you, don't do that. Okay, don't be that person. Yeah. Because the last thing you want to do is show up, your retirement day. They don't give you gold watches anymore, but maybe some people do, but
some of them do.
And be like, okay, now what? Okay, that's not the way to do it. If there's anything I can tell you, just don't do that. Okay, you really want to plan as soon as possible. So some of the questions around the home is, for many people, especially in the Bay Area, their home can represent their greatest amount of, I guess you could say, assets. Yeah. But it's not liquid, right? Like, what are you going to do? Like, you need a place to live, right? And if they love the home and they want to stay, it's really scary because maybe they didn't save enough outside of it. Again, that's not, hopefully if you work with someone like me from the beginning, that's not the case. Yeah. But if you do that, then the question is, okay, well, I don't want to sell this because maybe there's a lot of equity in the home. But if you don't have savings, you got to figure out some strategies around the balancing act between how am I going to produce that paycheck the second that my job stops. Yeah, right. Right. Okay. So part of what I do is I help people look through and say, okay, well, what is there? Do you have a pension? Do you have Social Security? Do you have 401k money, IRAs, investment accounts, cash? Where are all the different sources of income? And what are the different strategies to be able to produce this income? Can you do it without touching the home? And then when you ask those questions, part of it is how much do I need? Well, I don't know. Yeah. It depends on where you live. Are you going to live in Idaho or are you going to live here, right? Are you going to live in, Kansas or, are you going to live in Los Gatos, right? Yeah. So a lot of it's dependent on that. But we can at least, create some basic understanding based off of your current budget and lifestyle. And kind of start to analyze what type of income that you'll need. Absolutely. So this goes into the whole point of what the show is about is starting early, right? Because if you're looking at answering these questions right before retirement, it might be pretty tough. Unless you're looking at this and starting 10, 20 30 years before retirement, these questions are going to get much easier, right? I mean, answering these questions are going to get much easier, and having that plan is going to make it easier. Well, it certainly gives you more time to make changes if you're not moving in the right trajectory or the one that's most effective for what you're trying to accomplish. But it's never too late to get advice. I mean, it may not be, you may not be able to save a situation if you didn't save enough, but at least you can work to have someone help you think through what is the highest and best use of your dollars, because you can't afford just to wing it, right? Yeah. You really got to look at, okay, what are the different options to produce the income that I need? And if you need to sell the house, or if you want options like maybe even a reverse mortgage, you might want to have life insurance so that it can a death benefit can pay off the loan left over so that your kids can inherit the house. So there's a lot of different complexities that you really want to look at. And having an advocate kind of look through, what the different options are and help you analyze it should be your decision.
Yeah, right.
But having someone else take a look at it and say, okay, what might be possible given this is the fixed amount of money that's there, how do you produce it?
Got it. All right, well, we got to take a quick break. We're going to get more into the selling side of things and looking at it from the financial advising perspective. Kristin Niedermeyer, financial advisor, is on today. I'm Mike D'Ambrosio. This is Real Estate Radio Live. Stick around. We'll be right back on the other side of the break.
For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Again, your host for today's edition of Real Estate Radio Live, Mike D'Ambrosio.
Welcome back. This is Mike D'Ambrosio on Real Estate Radio Live, KDOW 1220 AM, the Wall Street Business Network. Kristin Niedermeyer, financial advisor, is in studio today. And if you got any other questions, you can text in the last segment to do it, 408-630-0101. That's become so popular for all you texters out there. And this segment's brought to you by TAPS Termite. They've been serving the Bay Area for over 45 years. TAPS Termite is committed to keeping your living area pest-free by using the newest and safest technology. You can call TAPS today for a complimentary inspection. That's 408-259-5900. Don't be scared. And actually, TAPS will be on. Tim Denner from TAPS is going to be on the show next Monday, and that's Halloween. So we always have, I think this is the second year in a row we've had the termite guy on Halloween. So we always tell scary termite
He's
stories.
He's a great guy, guys.
Yeah. We always tell interesting termite stories and scary, creepy, crawly stories from Tim's 40 years of experience. So,
wow.
I mean, he's been crawling 45 years, actually. So, anyways, it's always fun to have Tim on Halloween. Okay, let's get back into selling. We talked about buying in the first half of the show. We're talking selling. What other things are there to consider, outside of what we've already discussed on the sell side?
Right. So, I want to be careful here. I can't give, legal or tax advice.
Yeah.
So nothing I say here is that. But one of the things that I find is just because you're concerned about something, like, for example, capital gains, it should not be a reason why you don't go get information. Be an educated, informed person when it comes to your finances. It's harder and harder for people to be able to retire with the same standard of living that they had while they were working. 60% of Americans, in fact, have less than $100,000 saved for their retirement that are in the baby boomer generation, which means they're either at retirement or nearing it, right?
Yeah.
So it's a very scary thing that we have to pay attention to. So
it's huge. I mean, not to cut it.
Oh, no, absolutely.
But it's huge. It's like the conversation we had earlier in the show about more. If you're thinking about buying a house and you're just scared to go talk to a mortgage professional, or just go get the information. The worst that can happen is you don't qualify, and you come out of that meeting with a plan on what to do to get to that point. So
right.
I think it's always important to go out and get information, which is. And kudos to you, which is why you probably listen to this show, because that's what we're all about, education, information, and making informed decisions. And so that's super important when it comes to talking about real estate and financial advising and that type of stuff. So anyways.
Absolutely. And actually something I didn't mention before, but paying down debt, right? That's a big one when you're trying to qualify. So, having a strategy around that is really key. And if you need help, ask for it, right? Don't just sit there and hope it works out. It doesn't work that way, guys.
Yeah, that's like the government. That's what the government does.
Just keep getting more, right? So, yes, many people don't want to have the capital gains. They'd prefer to maybe, die with the property. So there's a step up in cost basis for their heirs. And I get that. Like that would be ideal. But that is one concern of many, right? And what I find when people are looking at retirement, they really fall in one of three camps. One camp is, I want to die with my last dollar.
Yeah.
Right? Or bounce my last check, right? That's kind of like the extreme camp, right?
Those people are characters.
And, well, I have clients in all different stages. It's not my place to judge. It's just people are different, right? And it's your life, not mine. I'm here to help you. As long as you're not hurting anyone, right? And on the other side, it could be I want to spend as little as possible and leave as much behind as a legacy, either to my to my family, to my children, to my charity, to something that I care about, right? The 3 C's: children, charity, something I care about, right?
Yeah.
Or somewhere in the middle, right? Like I'd like to make sure I have enough income for my lifestyle, but I'd also like to leave money behind if I can, right? So that's where this conversation around selling your home is really, you got to look at all these different factors.
Yeah.
Because if all you care about is legacy, dying with it's a pretty darn good way to leave money behind for your kids, right? As long as it's in a trust, right? Yeah. But in terms of producing income, if everything's wrapped up in real estate, if you're the other guy and you say you want to die with your last check, but you've got this big property, you basically have life insurance without even wanting it, right? Because without the actual product, your home is basically a legacy. So you really want to think through, okay, well, if I have multiple goals that might be a little bit in opposition of each other, how do I balance these? And how do I balance it while also looking at some of the factors of longevity? Right? If I don't live a long time, how do I make sure I enjoy as much as I can while I'm alive? But if I live for a really long time, to 120, is it going to last, right? And so that's where stress testing your strategy amongst all of these is really important. And part of that is getting the information by getting a competent realtor, a competent mortgage professional who can really help you analyze what it might look like if you do this. Yeah. And then also getting a good CPA that can analyze the tax impact, because yes, you might have a tax impact, but if you need the income, it could make sense, right?
On the real estate side, I can chime in there. I mean, it all kind of depends on what your goals are. Like you can invest in investment real estate and if you need cash flow, there's different ways to invest in investment property, whether it's outside of the state, in the state. Are you looking to get, appreciation or just put your money somewhere? Do you need to sell your house and maybe keep your same tax basis? Do you have Prop 6090? Do you have investment properties with 1031 exchange that save taxes there? These are all the types of things we talk about on the show, but they're all a part of the conversation when you're going to your little circle of your advisors, right? You have your financial advisor, you have your real estate advisor, your just like you said, your mortgage professional, your CPA, and an attorney too is another piece of that whole thing. So it's really good to establish all of that and get that little team around you to help you make informed decisions. So really good stuff. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to wrap up the show on the other side. Kristen's going to give out her information, and we're going to scoot on out of here. So Kristin Niedermeyer, financial advisor, has been on the air today. I'm Mike D'Ambrosio. Stick around. We'll be right back to wrap up the show.
For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Again, your host for today's edition of Real Estate Radio Live, Mike D'Ambrosio.
Welcome back. This is Mike D'Ambrosio on Real Estate Radio Live, KDOW 1220 AM. And we've had the pleasure of having Kristin Niedermeyer on the air today, and she's a wonderful financial advisor in the Silicon Valley, helping her clients plan, which is what we all need to do. Have a plan, Stan, is what they like to call it. And so just to wrap up, talk a little bit about, because like I said in the beginning of the show, my wife and I work with you. I have friends that work with you, and talk about the living balance sheet, because I think that's a really important tool that your company and you utilize to help people have a plan and become more organized. So talk about that for a minute.
Right. So, before people come to me all the time with questions, should I buy this car? Should I buy this house? Am I saving it? Well, I don't know. It's like that's a random question. It's kind of a loaded question. It kind of depends on, what else is going on in your life, right? And so part of what I think our firm does a good job about is really helping people understand their current situation. So when we ask the question, where do you want to go, we really know where you are. Yeah. Because we have, we tend to be collectors of accounts. We might have old IRAs and, 10 different checking accounts and all these different credit cards, and we don't even remember that we had that old, retirement plan from that company a long time ago. And so it's really hard to make good decisions when you don't really know where everything is. So part of our starting place is really actually building out a website for each of our clients. And it allows us to see, there's really 4 different domains, assets, all the different assets. So that includes your real estate, savings, investments, cars, all the different things. So I can see, okay, what is it that you have? And then the liabilities, what is it that you owe? So it could be student debt, credit cards, mortgages, taxes, et cetera, business debt if you own a business. So we can really get a better picture of what your net worth is. Because I can't tell you how many times people, feel like they're doing a good job saving in their 401k, but they have these huge credit cards. Like, you're not really helping yourself, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to be careful about how this works. So, and also talk about cash flow and protection over the top. So each client gets their own website.
And it connects all of their accounts. So the hard part is setting it up, frankly. And I've gone through
this. Yeah, it takes some time.
It takes some time, but once you get through that, that painful part of it is, it really gives you an overview on one main web page, which is really cool.
It's
you get
very
to
dynamic.
It's a 50,000-foot view of your life.
Right. So if you're buying a car, you say, okay, well, you want to buy this car. Well, let's put in the payments. How does it impact your cash flow? Do you have enough to still save? Will it increase your insurance? I mean, what debt will you owe? So it allows us to see any decision in the context of these 4 different domains.
It's awesome. So
and it's your choice, but
it's a good tool. So real quick, so we got another minute. Let's give out. So Kristin Niedermeyer, what's your? How can people get a hold of you? What's your phone number?
408-392-7836. Again, 408-392-7836.
And your email?
It's kind of long. K Niedermeyer, and that's KNIEDERMEYER at PacificAdvisors.com.
All right, Kristen, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Appreciate it. Good stuff. And if you didn't get that email address, email me. I'm Mike at RERadiolive.com. Mike at RERadiolive.com, and I'm happy to make an introduction to Kristen. And if you want any other information on the radio show or myself, MikeDSells.com. That's MikeDSells.com. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. Thanks to Kristen, and have a great week, everyone. Take care.
All right, bye-bye.
You've been listening to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Tune in, log in, download our podcast. Discover more at RERadiolive.com. RERadiolive.com.